dernière démo technique de la journée avec comme thème « Comment se prémunir contre la prolifération des secrets et améliorer leur gestion ». Présents sur cette scène pour en parler Monsieur Guillaume Charpia, directeur commercial, et Madame Grace Lowe, Director of Application Security at Manulife.
Hi everyone, so for this last presentation of the day, it's going to be in English. Please bear with us. So today we're going to discuss exploring hard-coded secrets in source code mainly, and different maturity levels you can achieve when you try to fix that really, really hard problem. So with me today, I've got Grace. Grace traveled all the way from Canada. She's working at Manulife, managing thousands and thousands of developers and trying to secure the risk. And I'm Guillaume, head of sales at GitGuardian. Agenda quite standard. We're going to discuss the problem and then ways to solve it. And when we talk about secrets, I know not all of you are application security professionals. So when we talk about secrets, we talk about ways, components, authenticate themselves. So essentially when a cloud service talks to a remote database, when two third-party APIs need to communicate and authenticate, essentially when all the building blocks of the modern internet need to talk to one another, you need to use secrets. And secrets are API keys, username, passwords, database connections, etc., etc. And developers tend to leak those a lot. So over the last few years, we've seen more and more leaks involving, big brands happening with source code leaking at first and then hackers exploiting credentials in there. I mean, we've got some massive names in there: Grace, Facebook, Twitch, Microsoft. Was there any leaks from the last few years that made an impact on you and that you like to discuss today?
Okay, so actually the first one that I actually think of that would be the Uber one, the one that actually the software is accidentally leaked. Yes, is quite a long time ago, but to be very honest, this actually makes me to have my career choice change from an auditor to AppSec because, well, when I was an auditor, we thought about, okay, we have very, very good controls, and then after this particular incident, I find out that, oops, human is really the weakest link. We cannot control our developers. We cannot control the humans. This is the reason why I want to do a little bit more.
So, I mean, Uber had many breaches. We're talking about an old one, 2018. And a developer accidentally leaked keys on github.com, which in the end gave access to internal repos, gave access to a big AWS RDS database. So that's a great transition, Grace, because every year GitGuardian makes a big, massive study on what's happening, on GitHub. We're scanning billions and billions of commits. And we started in 2020, showing only 3 million secrets leaked a year, then 6 in 2021, 10 in 2022, and 2 weeks ago we released the 2023 stats, and we're at almost 13 million secrets leaked. So it's becoming a massive, rampant problem in the industry as we move, toward more microservices and all of that. So, Grace, can we solve that problem, and how has it become so big?
Well, I would be saying that it's not that easy, at least from all the companies that I've been worked for. There's only a few sayings here, but we often hear that way too often. For example, people were saying that, well, they're everywhere, and indeed they're everywhere. Because when you think about that, before we said, okay, it is actually in a GitHub. But it's actually more than that, because later we find out that it's actually in conference, because people want to actually have all the testing environment. Everything is actually with all the secrets over there, right? And then when we actually talk to each other, they thought, okay, no one will actually be able to see anything within my check box. And then they start typing the secrets out, talking to people and things like that. So they are indeed everywhere. You thought you actually cache it, but no, you will find the same secrets actually out there in another place.
So at GitGuardian, when we started, we were just scanning source code, and really quickly we realized developers are leaking secrets everywhere. Any collaboration tool, so it can be your ITSM platform, messaging systems, etc. So we've really tried to expand to provide companies with more visibility in there, but the depth keeps growing. For a large organization, when you launch scans initially, How many secrets, can you legitimately expect when you've got, I don't know, 5,000 developers?
So the thing is, you cannot only fix the new things. You need to actually think about the old things that is already out there like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. When we keep on talking about, yes, we actually fix the things in the pipeline, everything is in the pipeline, everything is actually good and shiny and everything. People cannot remember they actually have a legacy, let's say, MySQL database in somewhere, and they have all the password in actually storing in some of the configuration files. So this actually happens. And the problem is, if you're not fixing one problem, when people thinking about, OK, we will do the migration and then migrate to the newer applications, and then different business unit keep on copying that code, it will actually spread like a virus, because now you might have 200 copies in 10 different applications because they did that particular migration that happens, that is actually on an app that happens like 10 years ago.
Yeah, so like to break it down, let's say a certain BU has a bunch of secrets in their repo and another team tries to reuse some of that code. They fork a repository. You actually end up having those secrets being located in multiple parts of the organization, multiple repositories with a lot of eyes on it. So it becomes really complex. And for revocation, it takes a lot of collaboration, because a dev who might have leaked secret usually doesn't have permissions to revoke it. So you need to bring in DevOps, CloudOps, compliance. And what do? You create tickets in Jira. You just put more information in Jira about the actual key. So it gets really complex. But let's circle back. Like, how do developers actually make those mistakes at first? Because, I mean, people know they shouldn't put secrets in plain text for everyone to see. So how does it happen, guys?
OK, there's a few ways. One of the ways that is actually noted here in the number 5, and this very, very easy for you to happen, is that if you have the contractors or you have the freelance developers, and then you actually have your own GitHub account whatsoever, and then you're also doing other works for other companies, you might just upload your repo wrongly into your personal accounts with all the source code, all the secrets everywhere. And also, some of the other reasons on how people might accidentally do something would be they have the master configuration files. When they do the testing, they usually have that master txt with all the secrets. You thought it's actually testing because this is a testing repository, right? But they actually have a master one. They also have the prod secrets, they have everything. And then they copy and copy and copy the particular configuration files. And now all the testing repo, you will have that same files with all the secrets.
So yeah, there is many, many ways developers can make mistakes. It literally takes a split second to forget that you shouldn't put something in there. So, a .env file, a .pem, you're supposed to put it in the gitignore folder. You actually put it in the repo. Oops, everyone can see it. So, as a practitioner, how do you curve that behavior? How do you fix that issue? How do you put something in place that, reduces the risk for your organization?
So I think when people talk about secrets or talk about like security, the first thing that they would go to would be, OK, we need to talk about the tools. But it's actually way more than that. This is, as what we have said, is a human problem and a human issue. And for me, as a director of application security, my customer actually is the developers. So you need to get them understand what's going on, why they need to do it, and don't represent ourselves as the blocker, but it is someone that try to actually help you.
What kind of preparation work and internal training you do before you onboard hundreds or thousands of developers on such a new process and such a new platform? Because you got like 10 different BUs. So tell us about stories from the trenches. How do you do it practically?
So first of all, we do look for the particular business unit that is actually more creative, and the DevSecOps lead will actually give us honest feedback. They're more open to the changes such that we can actually do pilot POC with them. And then at the same time, they will give us honest feedback. For example, things like, this will actually stop my developer from developing code. And then we know, OK, we might not be able to actually have the hard gating in the first place because no one would like it. Or they would be saying that, oh, can we actually have the checks in the push requests such that we know before we actually introduce that into the environment. So we actually get a lot of insight from one or two particular creative teams. And then later on, we use them as the poster child. And then we start actually moving segments from segments, BU from BU, and then try to actually get that understood why we need to do it. But we do it slow.
Yeah, what I liked about your approach is that you really went gradually. At first, it was more like informative, getting people comfortable with the tool, with the platform. And then you became stricter and stricter. So, where are you today? Are you blocking, informative? What kind of a setup do you currently have?
Well, I would be saying that is still ever-changing, actually, because you cannot just have one integration point. You cannot just say, OK, we have the hard gating. No secrets can actually lead to the production. Thanks. It won't work. So you need to constantly think about where you are actually helping the developers. IDE scanning, they love it because you will be able to identify what you have before you even push the commits. So if you actually make stupid mistakes, you can fix this on your own. Your boss won't actually notice it. We literally actually encourage developer by using that sentence. Like literally. So they were like, yeah, doesn't mean we can actually check and make sure that my boss won't actually have an issue with me. Yeah, that would be great. But we also need to think about like other integration points. So I think it's an ever-changing process.
So, at GitGuardian, as we see hundreds of different companies and customers every year, we've kind of like categorized organizations in different buckets of maturity. So at the very bottom, and we're seeing less and less organization here, there is essentially nothing. Hard-coded secrets are an unknown unknown. No detection, no prevention, no guidelines how developers should handle them and distribute them. Less and less organization are here. Then we see a lot of people that start to realize they have a problem. Like they don't have clear guidelines on how to distribute secrets, no vault, but maybe they will still do a bit of peer reviews, try to coach developers on what they're supposed to do. And they might launch like a one-off audit every year or do a pen testing engagement, just trying to find secrets. Then you get into level 2, a bit more maturing. Yes, there is maybe a vault. It's not adopted by all BUs, but you kind of like give clear guidelines on how to deploy secrets and manage secrets and distribute secrets. And you might be running some secret scanning maybe once a month. It's not real time. It's not well operationalized, but you're giving some first level of feedback to your developer teams. Then it's usually when you start contacting a company like GitGuardian, because you realize the pain of exporting those big CSV files and sending it to the BUs and hoping for the best, that they're going to do something about it. So you need something more polished with workflows and good integration with the rest of your tools. So then you get into like more advanced implementation. It could be a tool like GitGuardian. There is also competing offers where you try to make the life of the developer easier with clear workflows, value-added contextualization of leaks. Is it a valid key? Is it a high-priority repo, a test key, things like that? And you also link it to your secrets management process, because detection of incidents is one piece, but distribution is the next piece. And then there is, that full level of maturity, the holy grail of, secrets management, where everything is optimized to the T. You have prevention early in the SDLC. Developers are using, scanning on their clients, on their machines. Then you have some gates at different steps of the SDLC, maybe in a pipeline. You're also doing real-time scanning of the repo. And then if anything still manage to go through all those gates, and you need to do a rotation, you have clear guidelines and maybe some automated things with your, HashiCorp Vault, AWS Secret Manager, or even, a CyberArk Conjure. For example, at GitGuardian, that's, a next step we're doing. We're starting to build automation with Vault tools, essentially making your life easy. Hey, buddy, we found a credential in repo A. Oh, we also seem to know that it's a particular secret in your Vault. We open a ticket in the Vault automatically, so you know what needs to be done in each system. So, when you want to tackle a big project like that and fix for good the issue of secrets, what do you look for? What do you need?
Well, this is a very loaded question because, as I said, this is not one way, one stop, and you will be able to fix everything. First of all, you need to think about where to detect it in the pipeline, in the repository, pull requests, IDE, or whatever places such as conference or like your messaging app. So it's actually different for each companies or like the team culture. So first of all, you need to identify that. Second of all, you need to think about what to monitor, what to be alert, what need to be blocked. Because, well, you might identify tens and thousands of secrets, especially if you have different detection in different places. You will have a lot of alerts.
When you started, you only activated certain type of keys. I think at first you focused on the big public cloud keys, and then progressively you went into the more generic, username password combination. Did you prioritize that way?
Yes, definitely. We actually go for the most critical and also more more popular within the environment. And then we move to those that might be a little bit less critical. It's still critical. We talk about username and password, but it won't actually kill the whole firm, right? So we need to actually prioritize that, and that is very important.
And how do you alert developers? Do you send them email, DMs in your messaging tool, tickets? What's working for you?
At least for me, right now, at this moment, we're not directly reaching out to developers. We are more managing that per business unit as a project, because as I've said, different business unit will find the same secrets and copy 100 times. So you need to actually have a program to think about how you're gonna actually fix it. But I think eventually, if the environment is more mature, then, and the developer is also more mature, then we can start working on that one.
And tell me about analytics. You had a funny comment about developers being competitive and trying to gamify the remediation work. Tell us about that.
So I think for the numbers, the analytics is useful, first of all, to your senior management, because people would need to know what you have done in order to actually invest in a program, because you might need a lot of people to fix a secret. It's a very complicated project. So first of all, yes, you need to have things like the coverage and also the time of remediation is actually decreasing. The trend, this is actually what the senior management would like to see. And at the same time, we also have different analytics for different teams, such that people can actually take a look at it, and then they will know, oh, we need to actually work harder, because as you can see now, people are to 90% compliance. What I'm doing, I'm only 60%. So I think you can use the analytics in different ways.
I think something you haven't done in your deployment and your maturity process is, really implementing the client-side prevention. Is this something you're going to tackle soon? And what kind of complexity do you see in deploying that stuff at scale?
That is still, I would say, is a pretty difficult project that we might or might not actually go through it right now at this moment. because as I've said, I mean, I do not want to actually affect what the people were doing in a way that our developers is our customer. We need to know the appetite. Like, we cannot push them like to prevention and everything is great. We cannot do that. But of course, I would say in the near future, we should actually think more about, for example, API keys. Do we really need to have the API keys? Why we need to actually do the authentication this way? Why not we can actually use other authentication method that you do not need to actually have this API keys attached in this particular area? Like, why? So I think this is something that we can work to us.
And we will certainly push for that. So that's everything we wanted to cover for today. Obviously, Grace had the experience of deploying a complex program at quite the scale. So if you have any questions, we are super happy to answer some of those. Would it be on stage or right outside the conference room? Thank you so much.
Oui, non, oui. Ah, voilà. Merci beaucoup. Alors, je ne sais pas si éventuellement vous acceptez, puisqu'on a un peu d'avance, d'éventuelles questions. Si quelqu'un a une question à poser, n'hésitez pas. On a encore quelques petites minutes à vous accorder. Pas de questions, sinon, si, monsieur, madame, plein de questions d'un coup. Ah, priorité aux dames, avec plaisir.
Hello, thanks for the demo, it was really nice. I think you just brushed it at the end, but clearly when you don't hear me? Okay, and if I try to speak louder? Okay. So when developers, they put secrets in their code, usually it's because they need to put the secrets in the code, right? And so when you try to remove secrets from the code, the question is like, what alternatives do they have? So do you have any insights or any thoughts on what alternatives would they have to not have to share secrets in the code and how they can do instead?
Well, the way that we are trying to work right now is to try to have the developer utilities develop such that we can actually help our developers to actually utilize a safer way to actually manage secrets, because that's also related to how you decide your applications, actually. If those are very old-fashioned application deployment, yes, you might still have DB connection string, and they're just there. So this is also something that, that's why I said it's an enterprise program, because you need to identify what is actually within your repository. Different companies will have different secrets that is more prominent, and then you might actually need to fix it in an enterprise way. Like, why you still allow applications that actually with just plain DB connection string over there? Do you really need it?
But yeah, having a tool such as GitGuardian scanning the code and surfacing problems, if you don't give developers a vault or a privilege, a PAM tool, it's not going to work. You need to give them a safe alternative to distribute and store the secrets.
So thank you very much for the presentation. Yeah, do you hear me now? Okay, thank you very much for the presentation again. So my question will be, considering code or an application designed by as first security by design and using Snyk and the Sonar Cube, so is GitGuardian will be an additional tool using all this, or we will, if we are using Snyk already or Sonar Cube, maybe we'll not use, we'll not need this tool?
Okay, so just put it as use another hat that is the auditor hat that I have before. So you cannot just focusing on one kind of security testing. If you talk about statistical scan for Snyk or Sonar Cube, or we talk about SCA, this is actually different kinds of testing tools that is actually focused on different issues. So you have static code scan that you can identify source code vulnerabilities, let's say SQL injections. And then you will need you need to take a look on the open source vulnerabilities because, well, open source, everyone is using open source in their source code, like 70%, 80%. Then we need to actually look at that particular vulnerabilities. And then we talk about dynamic scans for your applications because you will need to see how the apps is actually being interact. And secret scanning is actually just talking about secrets that is actually in the source code. So this is like different things, and everything combines together. We call it security in depth, such that we can actually make sure our application would be actually safe.
Many GitGuardian customers are using Snyk and GitGuardian side by side. I mean, Snyk is doing great at SAST and SCS scanning, but they focus more on the pipeline. GitGuardian goes really deep into the Git history, scanning the entirety of the repo, facilitating the remediation flow, which is quite different. You need to coordinate with CloudOps, SRE, so we have a lot more guided workflows specialized on the complexity of leaked credential. And as a matter of fact, Snyk is a partner, so we can push GitGuardian alert in the Snyk Insights module. So you can kind of use Snyk as an orchestrator, even if like the feed of alert coming from GitGuardian is higher quality. They do a little bit of sequence detection as part of their SAST, but I mean, we partner on that, and they know their limitations, and we know ours. So a lot of customers are using both hand in hand.